Good morning, beautiful people. Hope everybody's doing well this morning. It's been a few early mornings for me. My clock is going that way again. So I just thought I'd go ahead and make this video. This is video number 5 in the series of how and why. And I want to thank everyone again so much for all the support, all the prayers, financial contributions. Finally got all my CT scans to the doctor in Mexico, and I think they received them and they're reviewing them. And I'm pretty sure, I'm about 90% sure that I'm going back. I've got probably about $5,000 from my goal to be able to go back, and that's for the services like the radiation and stuff. But thanks to you, incredibly generous community, I don't feel stressed about it, and I cannot tell you how much of a load that takes off and how much I love you for that. I'm so grateful. My family's so grateful. So thank you again. We really, really appreciate it. Today I want to continue on with where I left off, and I'm doing the same thing. I'm writing notes out first so I can keep the consistency of the timeline. This video may be a little bit longer than usual just because of the information I had to put down. So bear with me, be patient, or don't. If you don't, I totally understand. But thank you so much for continuing to stick with me. I hope this information is valuable to you. I continued to research the Nazi regime and the SS. The more I researched, the more disappointed and depressed I became. However, at the time, I knew I needed to continue and learn as much as possible about propaganda and how people are manipulated using their own ignorance. Now, I don't use the word ignorance as an insult, but for what it is, it's a lack of knowledge. While continuing the research of the Nazi regime, I came across a name that had nothing to do with the Nazis, but certainly has an interesting story. The man's name is Yuri Bezmenov. Bezmenov was a Russian journalist who worked for Soviet state-sponsored Novosti Press Agency and was a former PGU KGB informant. He defected to Canada, bringing accusations of Soviet infiltration and active subversive measures against American society. He outlined a tactic called ideological subversion, in which a society is manipulated towards a certain goal. In this case, the goal was towards creating a communist state in an otherwise free society. The steps outlined for ideological subversion are as follows. And I'd really like you to pay attention here, because if you think about back when all this started, and my timeline may be off here some, I don't really know. I've tried to be as accurate as possible. But when all this started, the pandemic or whatever, think about, as I read these stages, kind of what was going on at the time. Stage 1 of ideological subversion is demoralization. Make the people believe there's something inherently wrong, inferior about their culture, religion, and civilization. Stage 2, destabilization. Once a society is cut off from its roots, various tactics are used to keep it off balance. Stage 3, crisis. A crisis is created to create a disillusionment in the present form of government. Think in terms of saving the democracy and social justice issues. Stage 4, normalization. Once a society is cut off from its roots, a Marxist or communist way of living replaces the free society. Bezmenov was written off as a conspiracy theorist as a result of his derogatory stance against homosexuality and his poorly produced books. Since both of those arguments have no relevance to the issue of ideological subversion, and even though I do not personally agree with his stance, I have the ability as a critical thinker to discount the claims he is a conspiracy theorist and seriously consider his points. Once again, I could not understand why I was being led to this information, but I had a foreboding feeling that something nefarious was coming. And, once again, I could feel my frequency dropping and the disappointment in humanity growing. In January 2020, the WHO announced that a new coronavirus had emerged in the Wuhan region of China, and on March 11, 2020, pronounced the novel coronavirus a pandemic. Nobody was really paying attention to what was happening, so there was no real immediate public reaction. But I was paying attention. The Chinese government, along with the NIH and the CDC, said they had found the origination of the virus in a wet market in Wuhan. It seemed suspicious to me that they could supposedly find the source so quickly. So I began to research the area around Wuhan. Turns out there was a high-level coronavirus research laboratory several miles down the road from the wet market. Just a coincidence? By mid-March, the social distancing and lockdown orders began. I attended a wedding at the same time and was speaking with a colleague who had been a healthcare practitioner for 30 years. When I told him I thought the social distancing order was a mistake, he looked at me like I was insane. Even with his knowledge of human physiology and how the immune system works to fight viruses through exposure, which eventually eliminates the virus's ability to replicate. If the virus has no susceptible subjects, it burns out. I was amazed, or rather dumbfounded, that this seasoned healthcare practitioner was not only buying into the fear narrative, but that he wasn't even willing to ask questions. I knew at that moment we, as a society, were in trouble. That night, I made this post on Facebook. Quote, hygiene, hand washing, and keeping those paws away from your face? Of course, absolutely always. As a matter of fact, it's a bit disturbing that adults need to be reminded, but that is a discussion for another time. Social distancing? Big mistake. Of course, if you're running a fever and snotting everywhere, stay home. Respect others and yourself. It's a bit disturbing that adults need to be reminded, but that is also a discussion for another time. Why is social distancing a big mistake? Our immune systems have to be exposed to challenges to strengthen. Every day, our fantastic mechanism, the body, fight off viruses and bacteria because it has been exposed before. The body can avoid sickness if we help it through hygiene. If we do get sick, we either get better or die, and eventually we'll die. But if we don't die, our magnificent mechanism now has a way to fight off a returning attack. Perhaps this virus is a precursor to something more insidious. And if our bodies aren't exposed now, what will happen when the mutated form returns? Yep, we might die. We're all going to die anyway of something. But maybe, just maybe, with a little more social exposure, we won't die from this. No matter what, mortality rates will exist. Someone will die from this virus. They already have. But if we avoid exposure with social distancing, more death may be in store for the mutated form of this virus or the millions of others that are floating around. Historically, large quantities of people died when foreigners brought viruses and bacteria into their midst. Indigenous peoples, decimated by social distancing. Now, not all these indigenous people died. Some survived and were able to ward off the viruses and bacteria when other foreigners came. Why? Because they were socially exposed and their immune systems strengthened. Fear is worse than any virus or bacteria and will compromise your immune system exponentially. Chances are when they start testing, loads of people will be carrying or infected by this virus. But since there's no treatment, what will we do? Freak out? Or recognize that our magnificent mechanisms will be able to handle it? Peace. Unquote. End quote. The reaction from many seasoned practitioners I had worked with for years was astounding to me. It was like I had already killed thousands of people by simply questioning the narrative. I was not only disappointed on an even deeper level, but felt the bottom drop out at a frequency level. Now, I want to be clear that I'm not blaming anyone for my predicament. No one. Rather, I'm explaining my reaction and owning my stuff so I can truly let it go and continue this healing process. And I want to be really clear. There is no blame being placed here. It was just interesting for me to see that reaction from practitioners, because for so many years I've heard body workers, say we want to be legitimate in the conventional medicine realm. We want to be a part of that. We want to be considered as skilled and trained. Yet when it came to a time where we could stand up and explain to people in a calm manner, look, this is how the immune system works. We need to calm down and relax into the fact that we're going to be okay. None of that happened. Well, some did, and some practitioners, but a lot of the people that I was experiencing, that wasn't happening. So, as a result, my reaction then was just disappointment, total disappointment. So I'm going to stop here for now. Thanks so much for listening, and I appreciate you. I love you, and hope that everyone has a great day, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.